What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. I'm going to break down what's happening with the FOMC meeting that's coming up very soon, and President Trump and the whole situation involving Israel and Iran, as we're seeing some big updates. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. Anyways, as far as SPY is going, we'd like to reject near 604 to 606. We also like to get bought back up near 595, so we're still technically range bound. SPY dumped quite a bit yesterday, but now it's trying to get bought back up just a little bit in the pre-market. And we're very much just flat right now. So there's a good chance we just see a lot of consolidation, a lot of chop until we get to FOMC. Now, keep in mind, the way today is going to go is like this. Today is Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. We basically had some housing data that just came out, which is quite minor. But as time goes on, we have some bill auctions at 11:30 a.m. This may cause some volatility. Not that serious. The serious stuff is going to be right here at 2 p.m. We have the Fed rate decision. We know the Fed's going to keep rates the same, but the question is, what are they going to say about the current situation? What's going to happen with the economic projections report at 2 p.m.? Will we see inflationary expectations go down for the future, and will this incentivize the Fed to cut more or less based off what they're projecting for 1 year out, 2 years out, and etc.? That's going to be very important for the way the market's going to move, so keep that in mind. Then at 2:30 p.m. we have the Fed press conference. This may also cause some volatility as we have Jerome Powell giving a speech. Jerome Powell is known for causing a lot of volatility, so we'll see what all of this leads to. Now, Tom Lee from Fundstrat is believing that the Fed is going to address that inflation isn't as bad as they had thought, and that this may lead to the market hitting new all-time highs. So he has that view. He could be right about that. He may not be right. We'll have to see about that. But another factor is this whole war situation. So President Trump has said a lot of things involving the war with Iran and Israel. As you guys know, for example, he's been talking about how we now have complete control over the skies of Iran. He also talks about how he knew where the supreme leader is hiding, and he's an easy target. So he's warning Iran not to be hurting Americans, or else the U.S. could get involved. And then on top of this, President Trump is weighing in on a U.S. strike as Iran's supreme leader says that the battle has begun. So we're going to see if President Trump makes this announcement. Will the U.S. get involved in this war or not? As of right now, it's looking like the U.S. has been getting a bit involved, looking at what President Trump has been putting on Truth Social. But we'll see if we start to get involved with strikes or not. Hopefully not. But it depends. It depends on other factors. If Americans end up getting hurt or not, and also with the way in which things are going. I hope that the war ends as soon as possible and that we don't see this expand. But as of right now, it doesn't seem too realistic, as both sides are continuing to, argue it out and fight and fight. So we'll see what happens with all of this. But this is something that's worth noting. Anyways, that's what's making up the headlines. We have the Fed meeting very soon, causing more volatility. And then President Trump will be weighing in on whether or not the U.S. is going to get involved in this war. So that's going to be very important. So that being said, what do I think is going to happen from this point on? Well, if SPY breaks 602, we're looking for 604 to 606 as our range of resistance. If we end up losing 595, we're looking for a dump back down to 592 or below. As of right now, we're range bound. We have 597 as one of our supports and 595, and we have resistance at 600. I would not be surprised if we just range trade between 595 and 600 for the majority of the day. And then FOMC is either going to cause us to launch back up and break out of this flag or cause a big rug pull. Like I said before, we have the ranges to watch for. If we break 602 to 604, we're more bullish. If we end up losing 595 to 592, we're looking for a dump. I anticipate a lot of sideways price action. Then we'll see which way we end up going as time goes on. So please keep that in mind. That's going to be very important for how we end up moving. Okay. So we'll see what happens. I mean, for now, what typically happens before FOMC days is the market's going to be choppy, very sideways, not going to be doing much as we approach FOMC. And then once it officially comes out, then we see a big surge in volatility. So I hope that's as clear as possible. We're going to be expecting some sideways price action. Make sure you guys are very careful with options in case there's a lot of chop. Just like what we saw yesterday morning, we saw a lot of chop yesterday, so we could be looking for something very similar in case we get a similar reaction. Okay. So that being said, that's what we're seeing at least so far, at least for SPY. Going on to the triple Q is the same thing. If we're really bullish, you want to see this thing get back above this 535-ish area. And for bearish, you want to see this fail at 524 to dump. I anticipate we're going to be trading sideways between 528 and 530 like this. for some time, or I would say like 531 is maybe like more precise for resistance, and then 528 is our support. I anticipate sideways price action. We're going to see if this launches up or down depending on how things go. So please keep that in mind. That's going to be very important. For others out there, we also happen to have the IWM. This is looking a bit more bearish. So we're going to see if this ends up continuing to fall or not. We have this resistance up here. We need to get back above 212 to push back up. If we can't see that, we're looking for 205 as the main support to see if that holds. I see a risk of us trading sideways between 205 and 210 for some time. Then we'll see if we bounce back up or back down depending on how this goes. There is a head and shoulders like pattern, so the odds do favor downside, at least for now. So you want to be very careful. ES is also trading sideways. We have basically 6,080 is our resistance. And then we have the support down here around the low 6,000s. So we're going to see how this ends up going. You want to be very, very careful with this. ES may see a lot of sideways price action, a push and a rejection like this. Expect lots of sideways price action around 6,050. And we're going to see which way we end up going. Do we see a big pump back up towards 6,100? Or do we end up dumping back down below 6,000? I do expect this to be range bound for now. So we'll see which way we end up going. For NQ, we have resistance around 22,100. We have support down here around 21,800. I wouldn't be surprised if we just trade sideways like this. So we're going to see if we break out higher or lower. Expect some sideways price action until we get to FOMC. That's the most likely possibility, unless we get some big war news. Bitcoin might be dipping a little bit back down towards 103,500. Then we're going to see if it bounces off that, as it may continue to trade sideways. So it could kind of like dip here, come back up and trade sideways until we see a break up or down. Keep that in mind. For Tesla, we're not looking too good. We have a double top like structure. You want to see us hold above 323 is our resistance to turn back up. Now, if we end up losing 312, we're looking for a move back down, or I'm sorry, 311-ish. So from what I'm seeing, okay, there's going to be a good chance of us returning back down to that 311 to 312 area. And then we're going to see Tesla possibly trade sideways between 320 and 312. And then we're going to see which way Tesla breaks as time goes on. Do we break 325 to be more bullish, or do we end up losing 312 to dump back down to 303? I anticipate sideways price action, and we'll see how it goes from there. Nvidia is looking kind of weak here. We have to see if we could hold 143.7. If not, so we're looking for this gap fill back down to 141. So you want to be very careful, at least nonetheless. That's going to be very important for how we end up moving. For Aapl, we're trading sideways here. We're going to see if we could hold above 195. If that fails us, we're dipping to 192. And if we break 198, we're looking for a push. So I do anticipate some sideways price action. For AMD, we have this resistance around 129. If we can't hold above that, we're looking for essentially 127. On PayPal, we also have kind of like a rejection forming here. We're going to see if 70.6 holds. If not, we're looking for a dump back down to 69. Coinbase is kind of flat here. We're going to be looking for basically 251. If that fails us, there's a gap to fill at 243. Might dip a little bit towards the low 250s, then consolidate, but it could be dipping more if 250 fails us. Amazon showing some weakness. We're going to see if we could hold 214. If not, we could be dipping back down to about 212. Meta is kind of flat here. We're going to see if we could hold 695. If that fails us, we're looking for 685. And we have resistance at 705, so I expect us to trade sideways until we see which way we break. Google is trading sideways. We're going to see if we hold 175 or not. If we break 180, we're more bullish. Otherwise, I see consolidation. And finally, Microsoft is consolidating between 475 and 480. I think we could be dipping to 475 before we trade sideways. So the market looks very sideways right now, not really doing a whole lot. So I expect some chop for now. So don't be surprised in case we see sideways price action. But then once we get the FOMC numbers, will we see the Fed expect to cut more or less? Then we'll see what ends up happening from here. We also have the press conference with Jerome Powell giving a speech, so we'll be very, very patient nonetheless. Expect more volatility at 2 p.m. and 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Anyways, that's it for this one. Thank you for listening, and peace out.